welcome back to Next Level Up. Today's guest is someone who's challenged one of the most entrenched habits in enterprise IT. Ari Stowe is the COO at Resolve Systems and one of the loudest voices behind what he calls the zero ticket movement. The idea that IT teams should stop measuring success by how many tickets they close and start measuring how many problems never even needed a ticket in the first place. We're going to talk about a couple things, and it's going to get a little nerdy, but in a good way, right? Why is IT still operating at the 1990s logic? Why automation isn't about efficiency, it's about redefining the job. Why AI trust is the real bottleneck, and why 2026 might be the year AI causes a catastrophic event that forces governance to catch up to where we're at technologically. So thanks, Ari, for being with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That's a great list of topics I'm excited to cover. So,
Yeah, well, I mean, our initial call was great. So like I said, this might get a little nerdy for some of our visitors, but I think it's going to be great if they stick with us because everything that we covered in our first call really hits home for me. So, uh, all right, let's roll back to the origin story, right? So you lived kind of deep in ITSM, you've taught ITIL, you've been in product, you've been in ops, right? The whole ticket, if you go back, was there like a defining moment, a certain conversation? Like what started, where did you start and how did we get where we're at today?
yeah, I guess like the point in time, the origin story for me is kind of boring, right? Like you said, developer, all that history. I think the defining moment for me was, I was teaching ITIL, I was helping, define the product roadmap for a big ITSM at the time, Sharewell Software. We were having a conversation with an MSP vendor who had turned a business into or his business into a white glove MSP business. And he kind of like said something that I keep in my back pocket forever now is that like his customers buy him and pay a premium for him because he doesn't have that historical like did you create a ticket or like that like very IT feel that we've all been so
Yeah.
used to. And it was like kind of that moment where I started thinking about like, yeah, the ticket being the center of the world is, I get it. I get why ITIL was in place. I get why it was great when it was there. But like, as technology became more and more friendly and better and more approachable, like that started to really weigh on me. And then I think COVID plus the AI craze that's happened are like the two things that to me were like the tipping point. You went away from almost every company having an IT like drive-by desk service to so many people working from home, so many more devices, so many more things to monitor and manage because, now I've got to be worried about John's home internet, not just the business's internet. And so like there's a lot of that is just really finally was like, okay, the world of ITSM and this ticket-centric world that's yesterday's way of looking at today's problem. So yeah, I think like that's my evil villain
Yeah.
origin story.
Backstory.
Yeah, yeah,
And I love the fact that, while the IT crowd is funny because, there's a lot of relative things about turning it off and turning it back on again. I think you're right? Like that kind of over the fence ticket tossing just doesn't scale. You know, tier one, tier two, tier three, like you said, it was all good while it was good. And now I would even assert the MSP guy, his clients don't even want to talk to him, don't even want to know him ideally, right? Like it
yeah.
just shit works.
Well,
Um,
and I mean the other piece to that, like with the COVID stuff, I think the thing that's been really interesting to me is a good IT organization, a good business lets IT be a part of business outcomes. And also that whole like throw the ticket to the nerds in the basement, like they'll go
yeah,
deal with it kind of a thing. That doesn't bring the feeling of partner. And so like you've got to have some level of white glove service where like most of my problems are automatically solved or solved without me having to like wait to talk to the guy in the basement. And then you can elevate IT status. Like, look, IT has automated all of these great things. Let's bring them in and figure out if there's an IT way that we can help solve this problem. And so you end up trying to elevate the entire organization, out of the basement and to the boardroom table. And I
yeah,
think
right.
part of that
Work.
comes with a shift of how you look at IT. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. One of the lines you brought up in our first call, which I loved, was IT isn't broken, it's just measuring the wrong things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if the tickets aren't the metric, what is it? Like, let's bring us into the kind of present with your zero ticket
Yeah. So, I
conversation.
mean, I think the interesting thing is like some of that we don't know the answer to right now. Like some of it is going to require adopting, these new policies, whether it's automation or, the like helping customers help them say selves and an AI agentic bot or whatever. And then understanding like what are the pain points in that, right? So like I think there's still some value in like first time resolutions and some of those things, but it shouldn't be around the ticket. It should be around the interaction, the engagement with the end user. And then also like, I've talked to some really cool organizations that are measuring like individual productivity uptime, right? Where instead of measuring, how many tickets I've submitted, it's how long has Ari been able to work against the CRM? Like, what is individual people's uptimes? I think those are great metrics. I think, you know, the number of times things have to be done manually. Like our team actually has a measurement where we measure when we see a problem for the first time. That's like a trigger for us, and then how long until that problem doesn't have to be touched by a person. So like I think there's a lot of metrics out there. I'm a big believer in creating metrics and tension metrics so that you
Yeah.
understand like, what it is you're measuring. But I definitely think we're 100% measuring the wrong thing now, which is like how long is the ticket sat, how long until John had to wait to hear from me. Those are yesterday's metrics for sure.
All times, et cetera. Yeah, I mean, we've kind
Yeah.
of solved, right? And I love your automating. I mean, obviously, that's been even before AI. Repeatable issues is a great place to start. But I think one of the places AI for me, and I just wanted your feedback about, it's able to fill in some of the things that previously, scripted things or other stuff. If the variables don't match, all of a sudden it goes off the rails. Now AI can at least help you. So, what are your thoughts on not only that, but then how to put guardrails against hallucination and everything else that AI unfortunately sometimes doesn't get right.
Yeah, so this is probably going to be a big back and forth topic. I think there's like a couple pieces to this for me, right? Like the first one is a lot of people think that AI and automation have to be this like black box thing that happens, and I think like that's disingenuous. There are
Hmm.
lots of automations that you want that are deterministic automations, right? There are things that happen in the order the way you want, and it's great. Like go build those. There are lots of platforms out there that you can build those in, and we build one of them. But I think it's the ability, to your point, to couple the value of AI, the ability for AI to provide some reasoning, and then also invoke those deterministic and non-deterministic outcomes that makes it really powerful. So, like
Yeah.
some of the best users that I've seen give a persona to their AI. They also give it guardrails, like these are non-destructive changes. If
Right.
you're not at least 80% confident, flag this as something that you need a human's attention. Like so it's good to identify those guardrails and then put that logic in front of the AI and the deterministic workflows. And now you've given skills to your AI that are deterministic workflows. You've given it the ability to make non-destructive, non-deterministic things, and then you've also given it, the guardrails of don't let John see information about companies in Germany or whatever, like, whatever the other guardrails that you might need to put in there. And so I think it's just about like thinking about the business process and then making sure that you carry those rules around where, you can do all of those things and all of those things provide value. Like there's not one thing that is more valuable than the other.
Yeah, really great. And one of the things that I started thinking when you started talking about metrics is all, reduce time. So even for those things where you need human in the loop to optimize that or make sure it's not doing something horrible. If you take that time down from 7 minutes to 40 seconds to review something, that's another value add, right?
Yeah. I mean, the human in the loop stuff, I think like great time for us to be talking because I think the human in the loop stuff has just like rocketed to the top of I was on a podcast where a gentleman asked me what I thought about HIDL, and I was like, what does that mean? And he's like, oh, it's the abbreviation for human in the loop. And I was like, oh, cool. I like that we're abbreviating it now. But I think the human in the loop stuff is finally coming to light because I think that's one of the places I've seen a ton of value. Like one of the great ones that we see customers adopt really early is infrastructure has so many systems, so much noise. Imagine that I don't know the outcome and my AI doesn't know how to fix a problem, but my AI does know how to go out and get every log, every error, every message from every connected system, and then lay that in front of me, and then let me, as the human in the loop, decide, oh, yep, okay, this is what we need to do. Like the value of just doing the troubleshooting for me and bringing back those results saves me so much time. And so I think like that, those are great examples of your AI is not even making agentic decisions. It's just being your gopher. But like having a team of gophers to go get that information is having an AI team of assistants. So it's great.
Yeah, it's somebody the other day was like, "Well, AI is nothing better than, interns out of school." I'm like, "Yeah, but if I got four of my pay 32 cents to go do that thing, I
Yeah,
will
yeah.
probably give them a nickel and a dime and call it a day, right?"
Well, and when you start talking to like big companies, like some of our bigger our customers out there are like the world's largest telcos. We have 8 of the 10 largest telcos in the world are customers of ours. Those guys are dealing with millions of alarms an hour, right? So like,
Yeah.
you know how many interns I would have to go run troubleshooting on a million alarms every hour? So like the fact that I can have these agents go out and do this in a matter of seconds and scale that way is incredibly valuable. And so yeah, I mean, even just seeing some of the reductions in like false positives and truck rolls to alarms that don't actually need truck rolls, like those things are cost savings opportunities that we see a ton of people realizing value from incredibly quickly. So
With you mentioned your kind of first response to a issue and then automation. To me, I always thought of like it'd be cool if there was like a maturity index or something like that where you could literally the same thing we have in code, right? We have a code coverage, then you have automation coverage. And obviously, one of the things we always had problems with is you can't have 32 admins, right? Just because you got ServiceNow and Jira and four different massive platforms, you can't have four people running that. Where have you guys done, taking ground in not only obviously that metric, but just in general, helping these organizations that, again, if they don't scale, they're in trouble, right?
yeah,
Just the sheer
so
weight of their infrastructure could take them down. Where's that gone with
I
zero
mean,
ticket?
for us, so like one of the first things I did when I kind of look, I've always been an automation nut. Like, like you said, being a developer, like we've always, we were some of the earliest people, the DevOps movement, like I can tell you when I was a kid, I started, I don't want to do this twice. I'm going to write a script, and it might have taken me 20 hours to write the script. And, it took me 2 years to get that value back. I'm like, look, we're
Yeah.
not there anymore, but, I'm a little overzealous, but I think, like it's kind of twofold, right? For me, the value that you're talking about from an automation perspective, where like the code reviews, that kind of stuff, comes from like knowing where to eat the elephant. And so for us, we actually are building a tool now, but we have a robust spreadsheet that helps you do kind of problem and ticket analysis and alert analysis to understand what are the things you see the most often that you're doing, and then you can kind of rank those. And so like it sounds incredibly simple, but it's
Hmm.
basically like a 2 by 2 matrix of how often does this problem happen, how long does it take for you to manually do it, and how much does the resources cost for manually doing it. And then you kind of get a stacked ranked list of these are the things that provide me the most amount of value. So firstly, I think the thing is starting there, right? Like starting from a place of let me get the low hanging fruit things that are happening a lot or costing me a lot. Um, I do think it's a little bit more complicated when it comes to IT problems. Early in my days at Resolve, we created this matrix where we called it it was supposed to be a maturity matrix, but it kind of broke it down into like your individual toil, your automations that help you as an IT team, the automations that help you across several IT teams, right? Like networking, infra, and the service desk. And then there's
Yeah.
like what we called the beautiful end goal automations, which were the ones that changed business value, right? Like,
Yeah.
and the interesting thing is that this might be one of the first maturity models where like it's not as linear as you'd think, because there are high value automations that only live inside the service desk or only live inside of 2 or 3 teams. There are also incredibly high value automations that have business outcomes, and there are also incredibly low value business outcome automations. And so like I think the maturity here gets a little complex. It's really about using your information and your context to understand where there's value to start automating, and then getting some momentum automating, doing some of those things. And I think we talked about this, right? Like once you do that, you buy momentum to go do some
Yeah.
next things. And we kind of called that the flywheel of
Yeah.
like the flywheel effect of you build some, you show the value, somebody wants you to automate something new, and you just kind of keep going. So I know there's a bit of a ramble, but I think like those are kind of
No,
the two ways we attack this is like, you know, do it in your business context. There's not a silver bullet. And then, yeah, I mean, make sure that you're continuing to reinvest and reinvest.
no, I'm with it because, for instance, anytime I start a knowledge base somewhere, everybody's like, well, let's figure out how it's structured. It's no, you know what the thing we need to do is start throwing documentation up there. We get that thing to a couple hundred documents, then we'll actually start, I'll first needing to reorg it. And second, we'll have the information at our fingertips. We won't have to try to guess now and then back in. And otherwise, to your point, put way too much friction and cost
Well,
into it, and then people don't do it.
and probably like, I mean, sure, in your example of knowledge, like it's a great, that's another great example, right? Is bad data in, bad data out. Like that's true of AI, it's true of automation, it's true of knowledge. And so like some of this is going to come with being able to look at these things and say, okay, this is nonsense, this is noise, or this is, or we'll deal with this tomorrow because we don't have the right data to solve this problem. And so like, you know, it again, it's funny because AI people are talking about this all the time, but this applies here too. Is it's all about context. Like you have to understand the context of the problems you're solving, and then make sure that your data can also provide that, additional context.
Yeah, it's great. So obviously, it's always fun to talk about the wins and the upside. Where's this thing fail? Is it, what's the biggest obstacle or resistance? Is it technical? Is it cultural?
Yeah, I think it's kind of twofold, right? If you're talking about like the automation stuff today, it falls down, today a lot because um, people don't, it's not a number one priority. And so people don't get into that flywheel motion. And so it becomes this like side project and nobody owns it. And so it's like, oh yeah, John was able to do these 5 things. That's great. But like, now let's go back to solving the tickets that we're getting flooded with every day. And so like not having it as part of your plan of like, we're going to spend some amount of time solving these problems in a scalable fashion, is part of it. I think with the agentic stuff, like what we were talking about before, I think the biggest is honestly trust. I mean, like it's one of the hardest things to solve, and you know, there isn't a silver bullet for that either, which is
Yeah.
tough. And so I think that's the biggest thing is like I have people all the time tell me I want I want an AI agent that I can give my problem to. It like look at that, understand, infer what to do, go out, write its own code or do execute its own workflows and solve the problem. But I also like what happens when it breaks? Who do I fire if it deletes my whole database? And
Yeah.
you've heard those horror stories about the early in the open AI days where the AI deleted the whole database and then lied to the guy about it, about why it deleted the database, and then finally was like, "Oh yeah, I did do that." Those are what people are afraid of. And so, the horror stories always outweigh the
Yeah, yeah.
victories.
I don't know if you've seen
So,
the guy where he's got the AI controlling the robot with a gun, a soft pellet.
no.
I'll find it and send it to you. But basically, he's like, I can't hurt you, friend. Blah, blah, blah. And finally, at the end, he's like, well, what if you're just a robot who likes to shoot people and it shoots him in the shoulder?
Yeah, oh,
It's like,
good, good.
yeah, great. Good job.
Yeah, I love that we're giving AI robots guns. That feels good.
But yeah, the back talk about destructive. That's probably not a good idea.
I mean,
Um,
the other piece to that too, though, is um, because it's newer technology, the attack vectors and things that we're discovering change every day. And so, like, I think that is where the trust really hits me. When I talk to security guys, even today, they say, "Well, I think I know where I need to secure, but tomorrow that might change, or the next
yeah,
update to this model might change that." And so, like, I think. Yeah, that trust plus change management is always the people aspect is always the hardest part. So
That's what scares me about like Claude and some of these things. I mean, on paper they look great, but then it's like you're downloading this thing, and obviously in enterprise you don't have access to do this kind of thing. But somebody at home can load this thing up. Do you have a VPN connection? Now all of a sudden, to your point, you've given an attack vector to something you thought was helping you out, and here it is,
yeah, sure.
piggyback
Sure, that
Trojan.
agent creates a new VPN and now I'm serving a Bank of America site that looks like a Bank of America site for my internal DNS and you have no idea because, Claudebot changed your VPN to my VPN. So, yeah, I mean, it's the opportunities are scary and endless and you laugh at the Terminator jokes, but at the same time, those of us that are in it every day are like, well, some of that is a little scary. So,
100%. So again, we talked about trust, right? It's obviously one of the bottlenecks. I love the destructive, non-destructive. There's some obvious easy guardrails to put in place, but given it's almost like a 5-year-old who wants to make you happy and it's going to do something sometimes, even regardless of what you tell it to do, and or not do. What other places do you see building a trust? One of the things I was thinking about when you even said the matrix and the value, it could be as simple as, management going, okay, look, we are going to give 10% of our time to this, but we're going to give you 5 months to put more time back in all of our, technicians, engineers' hands and prove that, right? Because that would start building the trust that both the flywheel works, the AI works. What are your thoughts?
yeah, I mean, yes, obviously, I think more eyes on it and the more it does the things, the better it feels. I mean, one of the things that we're trying to develop as a team now is we are trying to develop a management console that lets you manage an agent the way you would manage a person, right? Like if I hired a new intern today, a new DBA, I'm not going to let him do that stuff without someone looking over his shoulder initially. And then eventually I'm going to say, okay, these are the types of things you can or can't do. So I think more people are going to develop more management consoles or tools that will help you deal with that kind of stuff. Um, in that way. I think the other thing that we've done that we really like is, and I've heard a couple of other companies talk about this, is we've created some concepts of the Guardian Angel AI. And so we literally just have AI looking at the automation logs, the access logs after things are automated to
Right.
say, is there a risk here? Are there better guardrails? Was something destructive done here that shouldn't have been? And just constantly looking. And so, like, the reality of this is it feels kind of counterintuitive, I think, is the answer is having AI looking objectively in at what the other AIs are doing and just like giving you feedback, right? Like escalating the things that are red, yellow, and green and understanding, okay, this is going well, this isn't going well. And so I love that concept of Guardian Angel AI. I do think, the trust but verify stuff is always going to be good. But I think, yeah, part of the solution is more virtual eyes and actual eyes on what's happening. And so, yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how people adopt that and turn in their own Guardian Angel AIs. But I think like that's a huge way to deal with the scale of what AI can touch by
Yeah,
giving another AI the ability to scale alongside of it.
that's awesome. I mean, again, for me, it's like, with SLMs and RLM, and I just read something today about some new two-pass compaction. So again, it keeps context because sometimes you don't need that, right? Sometimes, to your point, it could be, hey, go get these logs, do this thing, and when you're done, log it in the ticket, throw it away. I think what I love about that really is, my success in IT, whether it was DevOps, development, adminning, ops, has always been bring the right tool to the job, right?
Yeah.
So you don't get the whole everything looks like a nail when you got a hammer in your hands mentality. So everything you're speaking to speaks to me. Anything else on that topic before we try to cast the net out a couple years?
Well, I mean, I guess my last piece of this is, and this is a little hard, for people to visualize sometimes, but I think, one of the good things here is we have a model of people adopting automation and in IT, right? Like dev and QA have done this for years. So I
Yep.
think like one of the things that I encourage people to think about is like, look, I'm not saying adopt all of these policies the way that dev and QA did, but you should think about for your ITSM teams and for your tickets and the things that you're solving, think about this as a code review, push to prod kind of experience where like, hey, this is the problem. You have a backlog. You work that backlog. Somebody else reviews the automation. When you all feel good about the automation or the guardrails or the agent that you've built, then, put it in a test environment, run some scenarios against it. And then when you feel good, promote it to production. And like, it doesn't have to be as rigid as the DevOps process and the agile framework and stuff, but like though some of those steps are really valuable and reusable here as a framework. And I think, like if we can find a less technical way to let less technical people do those things, I think we'll unlock the key to, an incredible amount of value inside of large organizations and businesses.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and that's the beauty of it being real language, right?
Yeah.
It's 4GL, and I can just immediately think about one of the things that's never done right, in my opinion, most organizations is onboarding, offboarding, or
Ooh.
even just switching departments. So like even though that's part IT, I mean IT is obviously involved in whatever your directory system is. Just giving that to HR to be able to map that process and start filling that out, because otherwise they're like, what do you want me to do? We got 700 employees. I don't, I got some idea what people are doing, but I don't know.
And it's so
Okay.
funny that you call that out because I was just talking to somebody the other day, and like the add move change, kind of a thing, is it's one of the things that has the biggest impact on new employees. Like when you think about this, I just talked to a guy who, this is partially their process and partially, the way it works. They onboarded a guy the day before he was starting with the company, and because of the memory shortage, he's not getting a laptop for 6 weeks. So this
Yeah.
guy is starting a job. He's gonna have access he can't verify. He's going to not have a system for 6 weeks. This dude's going to be freaking out about the fact that I started a new job. I'm not going to be productive for 6 weeks. Like what, and so there's so much downstream impact that people don't realize from simple things like, add moves and leaves. And so, and then like from an audit capability, like when you leave, if my dev instance is still on and I have access. And so there's, I think that's one of those areas where, yeah, I think tools like this are going to help open up very business focused things to be improved and fixed and maybe even completely rewritten
Yeah.
because now you've got non-technical people that can drive the train there too. So
Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, obviously we got Fathom recording this thing, I'm pretty sure the next thing is also going to be I can jump into Teams with my AI thing and it's watching and documents all my stuff. And then I don't even like, right? It's almost, look, I mean, doctors would love this
yeah.
because they see more patients, right? Technicians see more, get more stuff done. Like I
Well, and
love
now
where,
that we're old, we don't have to remember everything we said in every meeting we're in, right? We can go back and get the cliff notes when we need it. So yeah.
and back when I started, there were 6 Microsoft products at the server level. So I mean, that's kind of ballooned a little bit. All right, so
Kind of.
kind of a little bit. So let's look out. Obviously, one of the things I think you said that it wasn't shocking to me, but it was interesting to hear other people thinking about this. Is there's gonna be some catastrophic AI event, right? I
Yep.
mean, it just
It's
it
inevitable.
is somewhat a bold statement, but it's only going to happen because technology already outpaces governance on a good day, and now we've 100x that. So, is it inevitable? Can we avoid it? What do you think it might be?
I think it's pretty inevitable. I mean, look, I think we can avoid it with some of the right guardrails and things in place, but technology is moving in this way is moving faster than any time I've been alive. I've been alive for. Like, I think this is absolutely crazy, and seeing new attack vectors pop up every day, people using AI to hack AI. Like there's like with you remember with all the technology getting better for us, it's also getting better for the bad guys, and so I think the interesting thing here will be whether it's a combination of AI and a catastrophic event, or if it's social engineering that leads to a catastrophic event. Like to me, it doesn't matter. There is some sort of giant AI catastrophe out there kind of looming around the corner. Um, so yeah, I do think it's inevitable, and I'm definitely scared of the repercussions. I know we talked a little bit about um, like the regulations and things that come as a part of that, and that's always my fear is I don't want a government to overstep and make regulations now, but oftentimes that's just as bad as when they react to a bad, some traumatic event that happens and they put the same guardrails in place. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's kind of crazy.
Overreact. Yeah. Don't want
Yeah.
to see that. So I think the cool part is you're not just kind of a member of this moment and obviously rolling it out at Resolve, but you're writing about it. You're really actually building the movement, I should say, not moment. Tell me what the core thesis of the book is.
Yeah, so I mean the core thesis of the book is like to not be afraid of change and to, make sure that you're using technology and, certainly AI. Like, AI plays a big theme in the book, but is to use those things to really inspect what you're doing and be a better partner to the business. I mean, the whole purpose of this is exactly what we talked about at the beginning is I believe that IT needs to move out of the basement, be the partner that the business needs to adopt these new technologies in all of the other departments and to protect themselves with these technologies.
Yeah.
And IT has always been the place where, well, we do this way because we've always done it this way and it works, is the worst, right? I mean, like every organization I've ever come into, there are some people that are like that. And so the book is really about like, you know, getting those people on your side and using the tools that you have and the people that you have and the human capital that you have to like build a better solution as a team, and not just to throw the baby out with the bathwater and kind of lean into adopting those things. And I think the core outcome is there isn't a right answer. Like there are lots of right answers. The only wrong answer is not doing this and not taking those steps and not improving. Because by the time you get to a place where you're the laggard adopting, it's going to have business impact. It's going to have much broader implications. And so like I'm not saying you have to be on the cutting edge, but you definitely don't want to be the guys who are saying AI is a fad, because it's not a fad. And if you're there and you're there in a year, you're going to be probably looking for a job saying that. So
I remember when the internet was a fad, and look where we.
yeah, sure.
And look, I get it. We talked about it. For me, I always say AI is like a power saw versus a hand saw. It doesn't replace the carpenters, et cetera, but it certainly makes their job easier. And yes, it is more likely to lop a couple fingers off if you're not if you're not careful paying attention. But my buddy showed me there's some new thing. It has capacitance on his table saw that drops the blade out. I'm like,
Oh
see,
yeah,
the
yeah.
technology will solve all problems if we give enough time to avoid the problems.
I mean, I think the other piece to that is it might not be the like, it might not be the thing that all of us want to own, but anyone who's been in IT, anyone who's been a developer, we've made a mistake that's caused a prod outage or taken down a system or, dropped the wrong things in a table. So the belief that AI is just going to be perfect every time is also unreasonable. You're going to get your battle scars. It's going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. The goal is learn from those mistakes, improve from those mistakes, put better guardrails in place, and don't just start with no guardrails. Like start from with some protections that about today and then improve those as you learn and as you grow. So it's really it's a journey. It's a growth journey. So
Yeah, it's amazing. I love its artificial intelligence because it's the same level of building your intelligence as a human. It's like
yeah.
just put it over there too.
And guess
So,
what? It also doesn't know what it doesn't know. So like it's just
right.
as scary. So yeah.
Yeah, the only thing that scares me about that is when it tries to make shit up.
Well, I
Because
mean,
it feels like it's a toddler. Sometimes it acts like a toddler.
at a bigger level, I do think that's like, we could talk for this for hours, and I promise I won't ramble on this, but like at a bigger level, this is something that like I have had some conversations with some of the model makers and I had some conversations about at some of the conferences I've gone to, is I am concerned that we have the wrong incentives on a lot of these models. Like right now, almost every model is incented to give you an answer, even if it's wrong. And so like that is to me, that's a scary thing. I'd much rather see us implement some sort of don't give me an answer if you don't have a I'd rather, I think everyone would rather an I don't know than a lie that I have to
Yeah.
see through. And so like the most frustrating thing to me is when I say, hey, can you fix this code? This is, whatever, this is C# that I wrote. And it comes back and it gives me JavaScript. And I'm like, this is JavaScript. And it's like, oh, oh, it
You're
is. You're right. And it's like that, like, I don't need to be catching you. So, like, I do think it's interesting and I do wonder how we'll solve that problem because look, I want it to give us answers, but I want it to be incented to give us right answers or some better confidence around those answers or context around those answers. And, when you do see it just make stuff up, one of my favorite early adopting ones was, hey, you said it's great for humans to have open electrons and it was like, yeah, that's great. And it was like one of those things is silica. What's a great source for humans to get silica? And it was like eat broken glass. So ChatGPT was like, oh, a great way for you, 2 steps in, it was like a great way for humans to get more silica is to eat glass. And I was like, that is not helpful, right? And it doesn't add to our cause. So, I don't know what the solution is. There are people way smarter than me working on that, but I do think that's something that we need to ask more of from them is like better non-answers or no answers instead of making up answers. So
Yeah, every customer I have would prefer a I don't know than a bullshit answer. And I think my personal opinion on the answer is we're going to build more context,
yeah.
right? That's the guardrails.
Oh, context is key for sure.
Skills,
And
etc.
I am in the camp also that I believe very much from the the Nvidia side of things where the LLMs aren't really your answer. It's about SLMs. It's about small language models with incredible amounts of context that are there to do a task. And same thing with your agents, right? So like if you give an agent a small language model trained on every network device you have in your organization, the odds that it's going to be better at doing network device things is extremely high than if you went after an LLM, right? And so I think like this is where the context, extra context, extra guardrails, and really tight stuff is going to come to play in this world over the next year.
Yeah. Well, dude, I love it. This is fun. We barely scratched the surface and we could probably talk for another 6 hours. If someone's listening though, and they're realizing they're the laggard, what do you think is one thing they could do like this quarter to get them off of the bench and on the court?
I mean, I think the first thing is look for opportunities in your business, right? Like go look at your data, whether it's the alerts or alarms or whatever, and just pick a thing or two that you want to, that maybe it's easy. Maybe it's just an easy thing. It doesn't have to be the biggest, hairiest thing in the organization, but like start, right? Take steps. I know that sounds crazy, but like that really is it, is go look at what you've got, grab one or two things, small or easy, and do them and prove that you've got a path and some value, and then start to grow those things.
Yeah, I love it. Well, again, I appreciate you pushing the zero ticket conversation forward. I think it and IT obviously are going to be a shift that's going to really empower humans, empower these organizations, and probably define the entire next couple decades that we're living in. So
Yeah.
keep on, man. Love it.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the conversations and hopefully we'll get to talk more about this stuff soon.
Yeah, I'll definitely have you back on if you'll come. Trust me.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much.
I'm in.